在世人願捨身，這禮物化作活存的心靈。幸福是接受和活出這禮物的真諦，教我學習愛到同時就如遇見主。人一生最如趕，豔陽縱使多耀眼，如若沒愛，彷彿天空阻隔了光線的障礙。請潔淨我心眼，長留着愛的恩泉，清似璀璨。
喺21世紀嘅今日，冇人親眼見過耶穌。為咗將耶穌形象化，以雕塑嘅形式呈現喺人眼前，佢喺工作室裏面日復一日埋頭苦幹。
I've done more faces of Jesus probably than any other person alive, sculptor alive. I want to represent Jesus in a way that Jesus himself would want to be represented. And you know what? Jesus himself, he wouldn't care about the perfect abs. He wouldn't care about the perfect ringlets of hair. He would care about his message being spoken through artwork.
佢利用陶泥同雕刻刀，加上洞察力同創意，做成雕像嘅雛形，經過製模、銅鑄、裝嵌、打磨嘅漫長過程。Tim Schmalz 用無比毅力，令一啲難以用文字表達嘅真理，立體咁樹立喺世上，讓世世代代嘅人睇得見。
Tim Schmalz 係一位嚟自加拿大安省聖職及市嘅雕刻家，佢從事雕刻工作已經有25年，而其中最為人熟悉嘅作品就係呢一件。
And as you can see here, what we discussed about the face, I just have an eye and just a little bit of a nose piercing through there, keeping it very much open to the viewer's interpretation of what Jesus is. And I think that with me and my own spirituality, it's not the same Jesus that it was when I was 19. And what I love about this is that it invites people to question who's Jesus, what's Jesus in your life, right? And so I love it. I love the sculpture.
Homeless Jesus 無家可歸耶穌嘅雕像係被阿 Tim 一次經歷所啟發。有一次，阿 Tim 喺多倫多街頭上面見到個露宿者瞓喺長凳上面，呢個影像一直喺阿 Tim 嘅腦海入面揮之不去。阿 Tim 一啲都見唔到呢個露宿者嘅樣貌，但係佢見到眼前嘅呢個人，佢就覺得好似見到耶穌基督一樣。
I come back here to St. Jacob's, I'm still thinking about that person I saw and thinking that I saw Jesus. And I thought what I have to do is I have to make use my artwork so other people can see the sacredness of life. And when they see one of the least of our brothers, that they will also encourage them to see Jesus like I naturally did that day. And so I created this sculpture.
無家可歸的耶穌呢個雕像，如果你唔仔細睇的話，你根本冇可能察覺冚住被嘅呢個人就係耶穌。唯一可以等你知道佢係耶穌嘅線索，就係佢腳上面嘅釘窿，而呢個亦都係 Tim 嘅刻意設計。
In Matthew 25, Jesus says, he presents the idea, and then they ask, when did we see you hungry? When did we see you thirsty? When did we see you with no clothes? When did we visit you in prison? And then Jesus says, whenever you've done that to the least of my brothers, you've done that to me. And so that's the punch in the whole thing. That's a eureka moment. And same with this. So you approach it, and then you learn. And so this is a very nice reminder that when we see the least of our brothers, that we should see Jesus. And it's interesting because this is how Jesus wants us to think about him.
一般人看待雕塑都會覺得佢係一件藝術品，同大家係有段距離嘅。但係阿 Tim 就覺得雕塑除咗可以供人欣賞之外，仲可以有其他嘅功用。如果你見過無家可歸耶穌的話，你就會發覺 你可以坐喺耶穌嘅旁邊，喺度靜靜咁默想祈禱。
So I actually created a little area that one can sit. I like to say they can sit a little bit uncomfortably, but it's almost like a different type of pew right here. And I was actually in Washington, D.C., where I probably had the greatest compliment on this sculpture, because it's right downtown Washington, D.C., and a homeless person came up to me and he said, "This right here is my place of prayer." And it is a unique place of prayer, I have to admit, but it's very, very real, the experience of having a life-size person. And it's showing that art isn't necessarily an ornament. Art isn't necessarily always something in a gallery where, or under a glass case or something you actually just keep in a little gallery and close it. This is on the city streets here. This is, in a sense, preaching. Even when no one's looking at it and it's in the background, it's still silently making its message clear.
無家可歸的耶穌由2013年開始擺放喺多倫多，依家喺美加多個城市，甚至遠到去愛爾蘭、西班牙、印度同埋梵蒂岡都可以見到。但係為阿 Tim 嚟講，擺放喺安省滑鐵盧市嘅 Homeless Jesus 對佢嚟講特別有重大嘅意義。
To have this sculpture here so close to my hometown in Waterloo, where you have people from all over the world coming, studying, and then from Waterloo they're going elsewhere around the world. This is a massive tech area. University of Laurier right here, University of Waterloo up the street. And to have this silent figure eternally sleeping on this bench, haunting in a sense, isn't it? Snow all around. It makes you empathize with the people that have no home in this weather that are going to be outside. And so it's a very, very silent preacher, but sometimes that's the more powerful.
無家可歸的耶穌所得到嘅評價，大部分都係正面，但係有啲人認為將耶穌形容為露宿者係貶低咗耶穌。阿 Tim 正正就係要挑戰大家，要從不同人嘅身上面睇到耶穌基督嘅臨在。
Whenever I see a comment that says Jesus should not be represented like that, Jesus should be helping people, not looking like one that needs help. That's an exercise that that's a lesson they are getting right there, a visual lesson. Because if you cannot see Jesus within the homeless people, then how can you see him in the church, in a sense? And I think that's one of the most powerful messages, that if you can't see Jesus in the least of our brothers, then you're not really truly seeing him, right?
喺創作無家可歸的耶穌之後，阿 Tim 仲創作咗另一個雕像係講及露宿者嘅，名字叫做 When I Was Naked， 當我赤身露體時。呢個雕像嘅名字係嚟自喺聖經入面耶穌講及最小弟兄嘅説話。阿 Tim 花咗好多時間去構思呢個概念。當佢去到羅馬嘅時候，從當地嘅露宿者，佢終於得到靈感。
I've been thinking about how to do When I Was Naked for years. It's so difficult because it's just going to look like a nude person, right? And then when I was in Rome, homeless people in Rome were using cardboard for their bedding. If it rained, they would make a tent over it, and they would use it as a separation between them and the city. And I realized now how to do it, just instantly when I was in Rome. When I Was Naked has to use cardboard. I have a nude figure that becomes naked because he's trying with a piece of cardboard to hide himself from being exposed to the world. And it is such a powerful piece.
對阿 Tim 嚟講，佢創作嘅呢啲有關受苦嘅人嘅雕像，係能夠切實反映呢個世代好多人嘅境況。教宗方濟各定咗2016年為慈悲禧年，而阿 Tim 亦都希望佢所創作嘅呢一系列雕像，能夠喺呢一年結束之後，繼續喚醒世人關注慈悲嘅重要性。
At the time now, where in the world you have so many misplaced people and you have so much horror going on. And I think that it's just all for a reason. I think that this is the year of mercy in a sense that it is absolutely needed today, this very time, more than ever before. We have more technology. I just got a new iPhone And with the technologies around us, we are so sophisticated. But then when you think about all of the people that are out there suffering, that are essentially naked, that are hungry, that are strangers, and the responsibility is an awesome responsibility that all Christians have. And if my sculptures being placed in city centers can remind people that every year should be the year of mercy, because that's essentially what God wants.
Tim 係一名虔誠嘅天主教徒，信仰係佢生活嘅中心，所以你會發覺佢有好多嘅雕像創作都係圍繞住佢嘅信仰。每日早上4點幾佢就會起身去到個工作室入面埋頭苦幹，目的就係爭取更加多嘅時間，盡量創作。
There's very few Catholic artists out there. Most artists are doing public sculptures of metal, twisted metal, and everything like that. The amount of Christians that are devoted to doing sculpture are very, very little in today's time. And therefore, I have to do a lot of, as much as I possibly can, because there's not very many chances of it, right? For me, the essential truth of life is only found with Christianity. And I'm convinced that artwork can help and heighten people's and change people's ideas on the importance of Christianity in their life. The truth is, I would not continue to do sculpture if it wasn't for Christianity. And when you put everything you have into something, it has to be for an important thing. And Christianity provides that.
Tim 自細就領洗，但係喺佢17、18歲嘅時候，佢有一個好特別嘅經驗，令佢對耶穌基督深信不疑。
I was suffering from, I would have to say, mental illness, 17, 18. I was seeing things. I actually believed I was hearing the devil. And I was crazy. It was like a schizophrenia or something. I would hear voices, and the voices were horrible. They were, it was a different language that was essentially like the devil was insulting me. And this went on for month after month. I couldn't read, I couldn't go to school. And nothing seemed to help. I started to look up mental illness, what should I do? I remember I started to pray. And I started praying to God, this big God, and still nothing happened. But the moment I started praying to Jesus Christ, everything changed in my life. It was gone instantly. 6, 7 months of this, but the moment I prayed, and I'm talking like 3 minutes into a repetitious prayer to Jesus, everything was healed instantly. When an experience like that happens to you, you can never be anything but a Christian.
當時 Tim 已經開始創作雕塑，而佢嗰陣時嘅作品大部分都以抽象作為主題。佢嘅歸依令佢開始反思自己創作嘅方向。佢又參照下一啲藝術大師嘅作品，譬如好似米高安哲羅啊、貝尼尼等等。佢發現原來呢啲藝術大師嘅作品大部分都係以基督宗教作為主題。呢個發現令佢恍然大悟。
I saw these great masterpieces in history, and I said, you cannot take what they're sculpting, what they're painting out of it. It's a part of it. It's fused in. I think the greatest artworks in the world are ones that talk about God and spirituality and the most important things in life. Look at Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, the creation of man. Imagine if it was Picnic on France. No one would care. It wouldn't be great, right? And so I realized that just like a human life, you need a great subject matter to have a great life. It's the same with artwork. And so that's why I find the ideas that are the most precious and the most important to human existence, and that is God and the mysteries of God and the truth of God and revealing it through actual artwork.
當我參觀 Tim 工作室嘅時候，最令我印象深刻嘅就係佢嘅音響一直喺度播住聖經。佢一邊聽一邊用陶泥去塑造雕像嘅雛形。佢好想令到更加多人對一啲熟悉嘅聖經情節有更深入嘅體會。
This sculpture is going to be Jesus washing Peter's feet. But Peter's not here. You're going to be sitting down beside it. And so what it's taking is the idea of Jesus washing, in a sense, everyone's feet, right? This is a piece I just started at Easter. This is really interesting. Because for years, I thought of Jesus saying, love one another as I have loved you. And so what I'm going to be doing is having Jesus coming to a world of people that are showing love towards each other. And it's a very difficult idea to do. And so I'm working on that. And you can see I'm adding Jesus here. And I don't know if I'll change it, but this is very experimental. Every single Holy Week, I start thinking of a new representation of Jesus that's never been done before. And sometimes it comes up, and sometimes I throw the clay back in the bucket and start over again. But you have to, I think, be very, very much not concerned about the time it takes to do the piece.
我好欣賞 Tim 嘅創作精神，佢唔甘於被傳統所框住，不斷去尋找一啲新嘅表現方法，令人重新發現天主教會嘅各樣寶藏。
I consider myself almost an advertisement body for the Catholic Church and the Christian Church at large, is I'm the one that presents the next commercial. But these commercials are not 2 minutes, they're forever, because the bronze, it lasts forever. So you have to be very sensitive of what you do and what you put out there, because it's going to be forever, right?
除咗聖經之外，教會入面好多聖人都為阿 Tim 嘅創作帶嚟咗好多嘅靈感，就好似聖類斯蒙福呢一位熱愛聖母同埋玫瑰經嘅聖人 ，Tim 構思嘅雕塑令人相當驚喜。
A saint here who had a devotion to the rosary. So instead of doing a small little rosary in his hand, that's about this big, this rosary becomes huge, and it comes over, and then angels are holding up the beads, right? And so that's a very exciting way of showing something very traditional, right? But this, I've seen this thousands and thousands of times. But to see her coming out of a rosary with angels around, people will look at that. People will pass by this. So you can have the traditional element within a sculpture, and this is St. Montfort here, and to have that relationship and to show the power of it is going to be more than just this. Because what I don't like with statues is a statue just standing like this. Right? This is capturing people's excitement, and this is more emotional, right? And I do believe that when this sculpture is done and then outside, people will look at it. Whereas the problem with this, because people see this so many times, it becomes invisible. This people will look at because it's so much drama, so much action in it, and it's also new.
同阿 Tim 傾偈嘅時候，先至發覺原來佢曾經諗過加入耶穌會做神父。雖然依家嘅佢已經結咗婚，亦都有自己嘅小朋友，但係透過創作雕塑，佢依然發覺自己嘅祈禱生活係非常之豐富嘅。為我哋一般教友，我哋會攞住玫瑰念珠嚟去祈禱，但係為阿 Tim 嚟講，喺佢一邊構思，一邊將啲圖泥逐嚿貼上去，呢個就係佢嘅祈禱啦。
Just finished up the Stations of the Cross, and I'm working on these Stations of the Cross. In a sense, this is a form of praying. And I get it in the imagination. What did Pilate look like? What would Jesus do on his second fall? And his third fall, what would Jesus do? And I thought this is like jumping in to prayer in a sense. And it says likewise with some of these pieces here. It's like, how would Jesus hug someone? And then you think about that. When I create this rosary here, I'll be like, how does Mary look here? And how would, and in a sense, what I do is a very unique kind of way of praying in a sense. There has to be so many different ways of glorifying God. And so mine is one, and it's absolutely all-consuming at times. But I love it, you know?
大家都睇到 Tim 非常熱衷創作同基督宗教有關嘅雕塑，但係其實佢亦都有另外嘅作品嘅。喺訪問佢嗰一日，佢帶咗我哋去睇佢其中一個大型紀念碑，就係豎立喺滑鐵盧市嘅加拿大軍人紀念碑。
So if you can see over here, These are all soldiers, sailors, and Air Force that died coming down to heaven to present an old veteran to the viewer. And the idea was that all of the wars that Canada ever fought in, all the soldiers are coming down to heaven to present the veteran who is presenting the poppy to the viewer. So it's a pretty epic piece. It's the only piece in Canada that has all wars that Canada ever fought in one sculpture.
加拿大軍人紀念碑高15尺，長23尺，上面刻有150個軍人。而呢啲軍人嘅裝束同埋外貌都係按照 Tim 收集翻嚟嘅照片而雕成嘅。對於阿 Tim 嚟講，最重要嘅就係佢嘗試將靈性嘅元素深入自己嘅作品之中。
Very rarely do you have any public work that suggests a heaven. I do a lot of public sculptures around the world, and this one is a kind of example of how, even if I do a public sculpture, I like to bring spirituality into it. By doing the secular, it brings my Christian stuff out to a new audience that really wouldn't see it. If they love this, and then they look at the author of it, and they look at most of my work, they'll think, oh, this is cool too. Works like this, because, well, look at where it is. It's right out in the middle of the public, and people become curious. And so I think it's important not to completely remove yourself from the secular artwork when you have an opportunity, because it can lead to more important and more profound things, right?
身為藝術家，最大嘅挑戰就係要發掘不同嘅角度去啟發人思考，同埋揾到不同嘅創作靈感。阿 Tim 雖然創作咗好多不同嘅雕塑作品，但係佢唔擔心自己嘅靈感會枯竭，佢更加希望能夠一直創作雕塑，直至80、90歲。
I've been doing sculpture for so long, and I can still come up with something that excites me and other people so much. And it doesn't say that much about my skill. It says a lot about the subject matter. The subject matter is so awesome that 2,000 years later, you can still create amazing artwork from it. And me, 20 years obsessively sculpting, I feel that I haven't even started doing all I can to glorify God with artwork, because it's endless.
Tim 希望喺未來嘅創作上面，令更多人對聖經有更多嘅反思，尤其是係耶穌親口講過一啲令人覺得難以接受嘅教導，因為佢覺得無論嗰啲教導幾咁難以令人接受，只要嗰啲信息係真理，佢就有義務令人更加明白。
There's a hunger for those hardcore messages of the Bible to be celebrated. It's very difficult to hear words that Jesus says, sell everything you own and give it to the poor if you want to be perfect. It's very difficult to hear those. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to take a black marker and mark out everything that we find difficult in the Bible. You know, forgive someone that offends you. How many times? Oh, let's lower that number. Let's cross out. We cannot custom make the Gospels to fit our world, nor can we do it with the sculpture. There's so many representations of Jesus out in the world today that people don't realize that the cross, you know, so many times he looks perfect on the cross, perfect body, perfect peaceful look on his face. But really, it's an instrument of torture. And the Son of Man, the God, to go on to humiliate himself like that is a big thing that people forget, because it's always there. It's like the coin that's been used so many times. People never, do you ever look at what's on that coin? No. Oh, that's the Queen. Oh yeah, right? But it's the same with, I think, Christian artwork. It's so out there, the cross, the Mary, that it becomes invisible. And so to bring forward Christianity with new artwork, I think is the reason why it is needed and wanted so much, is because there's a hunger for the truth of Christianity.
喺認識 Tim 之前，為我嘅印象，一般嘅宗教雕塑只會出現喺宏偉嘅聖堂或者博物館入面，但係諗都冇諗過有人會創作一啲可以放喺大街小巷或者可以融入人群嘅宗教雕塑嘅。而呢啲雕塑更加刻意將源自天主嘅真善美展現俾所有路過嘅人，等佢哋有機會察覺 領會同埋思考嚟自福音嘅信息，實在值得欣賞。喺未來，我哋希望 Tim 能夠有更加多嘅作品能夠展現喺世界不同嘅地方，等更加多人能夠接觸由佢一手塑造嘅耶穌基督。
位於耶路撒冷舊城，全長只有600米嘅苦路，多個世紀以嚟吸引大批基督徒以至遊客特地到訪。踏上苦路究竟有乜嘢意義呢？
時光倒流咁啦，去陪翻耶穌開始受難嘅每一個地方，每一個 step 係好深刻咯。
2000年前，耶穌係點樣走過被釘十字架前嘅最後一段路呢？愛常傳帶大家去到耶路撒冷實地體驗。睇完呢一集嘅愛常傳，歡迎大家打我哋嘅熱線電話，分享一下你嘅感受或者係故事。同時都請收聽我哋逢星期六嘅電台節目《愛生命》，以及訂閱 Podcast。要購買天主教書籍同信仰靈修禮物，請嚟到我哋位於Markham嘅生命恩泉資源及媒體中心參觀選購。我哋下星期同樣時間再見，天主保佑。